All right, good evening. I would like to call to order the Board of Library Trustees meeting for this Tuesday, August 20th, 2024. May I have a roll call, please?
Trustee Burrell,
Here.
trustee Vela is absent, trustee Kelly,
Here.
trustee Meadow is absent, trustee Rule,
Here.
and trustee Zick is absent. President Samar.
Here. All right, if we could stand for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. May I have a motion to allow trustee Zick to join a meeting? He is remote due to a business obligation. So moved. Second. And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Glad to have you. All right.
Glad to be here.
Turn him down. All right, could we start with liaison reports? Oh, I'm sorry, public comment. I'm looking here. Did you get any other public comment? No public comment. Okay, liaison reports.
So I'm Chrissy Maleska. I'm from the Friends of the Library. So this couple things to report from Brian. One is our August sale was another huge success. We brought in over $25,000 worth of funds at that time, and about 50-50 cash to credit cards. We're definitely seeing more credit card sales, which is nice about that is people just tend to buy more. They don't have to like figure out in their purse for an extra $1. So it's been really nice. We've also had quite a few people come for membership night and renew or get members. So that was really nice. The next sale is November 9th and 10th. So we'll be reaching out for volunteers, and then the holiday sale will be in December. We had 8 board members that volunteered at the farmers market, which was really fun to do. And then we've already set out the 2025 sale dates, and they've been approved. And we want to always, of course, say a big thank you to all the folks from the facilities team and the IT team that help us with the sales, because we couldn't do any of it without them. So big thank you to all of them.
Well, thank you. And I noticed when Mike is going to go through his executive director report, you helped us fund some really great programming this month. So thank you very much. We really appreciate it. Of course. All right.
And then I don't have a report from Foundation. They're still on hike.
Okay, great. All right, looking at the next agenda item, it is approval for the minutes of the regular board meeting of July 16th. May I have a motion?
I move that we approve the minutes from the regular board meeting on July 16th, 2024.
Second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right. All right, reviewing the financial report for the period ending July 31st.
Okay, real estate tax revenue totaled $2,951,624.65 for the month of July. The library received personal property replacement taxes of $36,955.23 this month. We also received $767.21 of cash in lieu of land from the village. Our copier printer revenue totaled $4,234.80. Our meeting room fees were $225. Lost item charges totaled $1,615.86. July interest income was $25,737.91. We had $53.94 in donations, and other income was $865.62. Revenue collected for vehicle stickers totaled $397. Our makerspace miscellaneous revenue was $624.87, and the total revenue collected in July was $3,023,142.09. On the expense side, 58% of the fiscal year has lapsed, and we've expensed 55% of our total operating budget. The favorable variance to date is $294,360. Just an important note with that, although expenses are running favorable to the budget, we are running slightly less favorable than in previous years, and therefore we expect to end the year about even with budget on a net basis. So looking at it compared to revenue, not compared to our budget. Our budget is higher than our revenue. So we budgeted deficit since actual favorability has historically been more than made up for the deficit. However, as expenses grow and revenues remain flat, we experience less favorability on the expense side each year to absorb that budget deficit. And then 18% of the total annual capital budget has been expensed as of July. That is everything I have for our financials. Any questions?
All right, moving on to the check register.
Okay, I have a couple checks here to highlight. On page 8, check 102836 to HR Source on the amount of $3,750. That is cost related to reviewing and development of an employee handbook, which is something that our HR team is working on this year. On page 15, check 102796 to Bob Ridings Chrysler in the amount of $43,798. That is for the Pacifica van that was budgeted in our capital budget, and that will be delivered this month. On page 16, check 102810 to Diamond Mechanical Industries. That is for $170,500. That's for the chiller and cooling tower replacement work. The capital spending has been a little bit slow the first half of the year, but now we're catching up with these projects. Just a note on the Diamond Mechanical check, that is not for the damaged unit, that is for the other unit that was put in place. And then on page 25 and 26, check 102820 and 102880 to Matt Flesh and Don Paul, $500 each. Those are payments to Arlington Heights resident and documentarian, as well as a former Sox pitcher for this week's upcoming Last Comiskey program. Attendees will view an abbreviated version of the documentary, which focuses on the last year of Comiskey Park in 1990. And the program was also recently featured in the Daily Herald. So that is everything I have for checks. Anybody have any other questions?
No, I have to say the coverage in the Daily Herald was terrific. Really big article, front page, nice pictures. It's awesome. All right. So I would like to I would entertain a motion for the Board of Library Trustees to approve the accounts payable check register for the library on July 31st, 2024 in the amount of $407.80. May I have
So moved.
someone?
Second.
Could we please have a roll call on that?
Trustee Barone,
Yes.
trustee Kelly,
Aye.
trustee Rule,
Aye.
trustee Zick,
Yes.
President Samari.
Hi. Thank you. Okay, how about our executive director report?
On our first page, wanted to highlight the library's presence in the 4th of July parade. So the library floated to new heights at this year's annual 4th of July parade, where we celebrated with over 1,800 balloons that brought a giant spider, butterflies, ladybugs, and more to life. The balloon creatures elevated the spirits of parade goers as they made their way down the parade route, all coming together to represent this year's Summer of Reading. The parade entry also included the bookmobile and thousands of summer reading paper crown giveaways. We're thrilled to share that we won second place in the non-commercial category for creativity. And the giveaways were made possible by the generous support of our friends of the Arlington Heights Memorial Library. So thank you very much. On page 2, the Arlington Heights Memorial Library celebrated its 8th FanCon on Sunday, July 14th, with more than 1,000 people of all ages stopping by the library to enjoy the popular comic book and pop culture event, making this the most attended FanCon in the library's history. Congratulations to the FanCon 2024 planning team, which included co-leaders Colleen and Emily, Allison and Becky in Youth Services, David in Digital Services, Eunice in Info Services, and Stephanie in Communications and Marketing for organizing a successful event. And special thanks to the 38 staff members from across the library who worked to make the event welcoming and a fun day for all. And thank you again to the Friends of the Library for their support on that one. On the next page, Mary Jo, our Senior and Accessible Services Manager, and Katie, our Senior and Accessible Services Supervisor, joined staff of the Moorings and other community organizations for an expo dedicated to highlighting the many resources for older adults in the Arlington Heights area. The event was attended by over 50 potential new residents. And the Programs and Exhibits Department continues to partner with the Arlington Heights Park District to offer summer wellness programs in the park, June through August. July sessions of yoga in the park and kung fu in the park, both held at the museum, engaged adults from their 20s on up and are always inclusive of all abilities. Attendees are grateful for these opportunities for guided instruction outdoors. And the next page, finance team hosted Rising Junior Casey Stannis of John Hersey High School as part of the District 214 Career Discovery Internship Program. With the help of various support departments, the finance team introduced Casey to a career in business administration. She also shadowed other departments and even helped kick off our annual budgeting process. The library partnered with Omni for a backpack drive last month. During the 2-week drive, 34 new backpacks were collected for local youth. And the library once again participated in the successful Mission San Juan Diego Festival. Bookmobile, Circulation and Community Services, and ESL and Literacy staff shared with Spanish-speaking attendees all the resources and services the library offers. In collaboration with Palatine Public Library, staff issued new library cards for Arlington Heights residents and registered card for reciprocal borrowers on site. Staff interacted with over 75 people at the festival. On the next page, over 3,300 babies, kids, tweens, and teens participated in the library's annual summer reading challenge this summer. As they work toward the goal of reading for 30 days, participants were encouraged to visit the library every 10 days to play Plinko in Kids World or spin the wheel in the hub. Visitors to Kids World watched participation grow on plant-themed boards decorating the department, where participants added bug stickers when they signed up and as they reached 30 days and 60 days of reading. To encourage further reading, those who finished the challenge got to pick out a prize funded by the Friends of the Library. This year, 30% of participated reached 30 days of reading, up from 25% last year. So I just want to call out our communications and marketing department on this because they do a phenomenal job every year decorating the department and putting together all the graphics. And thanks again to the Friends for helping to support that. Then on the next page, cutting edge Epilogue Fusion Edge 24 laser cutter is now available for makers to use at the Maker Place, thanks to funding from the Friends of the Library. This new equipment is set to significantly enhance the customer experience by offering greater efficiency, reduced maintenance, and advanced safety features. The excited Maker Place team received on-site training from Fairway Laser to help ensure a smooth transition for staff and to ensure a positive customer experience once it was up and running. And just to give you some additional information on that, that is a larger and quicker laser cutter than we had. The old one we will be repurposing and replace our smaller Dremel unit eventually. So then on page 7, SVS, over 130 Arlington Heights teens in grades 7 through 12 gave back this summer through the library's Summer Volunteer Squad program. SVS was comprised of 7 different squads that met weekly to focus on various service projects with staff from digital services, Maker Place, community circulation and community services, and youth services leading the squads. In total, the teen volunteers clocked around 1,360 service hours in June and July. They presented 12 library programs and completed other projects to support the library and the community. And I should one more here. Neil and Nikki from our Programs and Exhibits Department, also joining us this evening, led the first public cooking competition in the Maker Place kitchen called Chopped Arlington Heights. Each team had to use sourdough bread, ground beef, 4 fruit jam, Granny Smith apples, and potatoes in their dishes, and were given free reign of the kitchen to use any other ingredients or equipment available. The meals included a mini meatloaf with hash browns, a burger with Mediterranean spices, and hand-cut fries, a soup with chicken broth and tiny meatballs, and finally, a take on mozzarella and tomato salad where the cheese was replaced with apples. Judges Nikki and Jennifer from our Programs and Exhibits team and Beth from Digital Services unanimously agreed one team was just a cut above Smokin' AH, who created a burger with sourdough bun and Mediterranean spices, perfectly seasoned hand-cut fries, and a jam aioli. Smoke and AH took home Maker Place engraved pint glasses and AH Chopped Champ engraved cutting boards. The event was a tremendous success, demonstrating creativity and enhancing community engagement. That is everything on of the director's report. I'm going to highlight. I'd be happy to answer any questions or highlight anything else you guys can have.
Good stuff, lots of good stuff. I know the friends helped with the laser cutter as well.
Yes, they helped with quite a bit, so thank you again to the folks.
Come to the book fair.
Right?
Yeah, right. What's the
The chalk competition makes me think, what if the high schools could do it as part of their, what they call that class, cooking class or home ec or whatever, that would be kind of fun. Anyway, wonderful stuff going on. Anyone else? All good stuff. Thank you very much. All right, moving along to one of our favorite presentations of the year, the One Book, One Village.
All right, so I would invite Neil, Nikki, and Sasha to come up, and they're going to present our One Book, One Village selection for 2024. Just give me 1 minute, I'll get this set up for you guys. Always.
We don't see anything.
Okay, that's your first slide, right?
Yeah.
So,
All right,
great.
so
Thank you all so much for having us here. My name is Neil Parker. I work in programs exhibit specialist. I'm co-lead with Catalina Shin in community engagement. I'm joined by my colleague Nikki in programs, as well as our sixth man, Director of Communications and Marketing. And we're just thrilled to announce this book. This is the 11th year of One Book, One Village. I can't believe it's been going on so long, but it continues to be a huge initiative within our community, and we just absolutely love it. So the next slide, Mike. Here it is. Okay, I'll let you know a little bit about the process, which was much different this year in terms of selecting the book. So I have to give a huge shout out to our info services advisors, Pam, Sherry, John, Lucy, Danielle, Eunice, and Joan. They combed through over 2,000 books and eliminated those out based on appeal, based on format, based on genre, as well as cost. So when we're talking about genre, that would be like Amish romance or James Cameron's international writers, all that sort of stuff. Okay, so that process then brought us down to 51 titles, and we all read those. I'll get to that in a second. We had 15 team members in the selection team that represented 7 different departments, and we had a nice mix of new readers as well as returning readers. So from January to March this year, we read a ton. We split up the 51 titles, and we all kind of read most of these books. So it was a lot of reading. From January to March, the selection team read 51 titles, and we narrowed it down to 4 contenders. So we've got The Collective Regressive Clover, Hester, Last Animal, and The Book of Charlie. And I highly recommend any of these 4 books. They're all wonderful. But we voted as a team, and we decided that we liked The Collective Regressive Clover best. We met with Last and talked that through, and working together, we all decided that The Collective Regressive Clover was the book. So a little bit about the book. There is sort of the short blurb. I'll read you a little bit longer one here. The Collective Regressive Clover is about Clover, a 30-something death doula living in New York City. She's dedicated to ushering people peacefully through their end-of-life process. The thing is that Clover spent so much of her time with work and finding that she has no life of her own. That changes when the final wishes of a feisty old woman sent Clover on a road trip where she is forced to examine what she really wants and to choose whether she'll have the courage to go after it and let herself live. So while this book is about death, it's incredibly uplifting and hopeful, and we're excited to bring that to the community this year. In talking about the appeal for this book, which was huge when we were in the selection process, We think this book is going to be great for the community based on a number of things. First and foremost, the themes of the book are universal. Anyone from any sort of socioeconomic background can identify with these themes of death and grief, love and hope, overcoming loneliness and finding solace with others, and living your life to its absolute fullest. There's a number of ways that readers can find their way into this book, whether it's through grief or whether it's the experience of the pandemic and sort of the loneliness that brought us all. Programming continues to resonate with the community, and so I'm excited for Nikki to talk about that in just a moment. And fiction continues to be a favorite, and so this is a book I think that will really bring the community together, and I'm so excited for the suite of programming that we have. I guess one more slide. So with Clover, we, with all of the books that we took a look at in the selection process, we had a couple of things that we had to make sure of, and number one, that was format. So the book is available in regular type, large type, as an ebook, as well as e-audiobook. And we purchased copies in Spanish, Polish, and Korean for our community, and then those will find their way into the World Languages catalog. And without further ado, my colleague.
This year we have 18 programs that fit the OBOB slate. Some highlights of them are an end of life panel, which is on Thursday, September 5th. It does not kick off the programming part of it. It includes Nancy Becker, who is from Compassion and Choices, Natalie Evans, who is a deaf doula, and Rebecca James, who is our Deaf Cafe facilitator, and who will also be the moderator for an evening with Nikki Brammer later in the slate. We also have Women in Photojournalism, presented by Jeff Misher, an art historian with Art Excursions. We are hosting a bonfire at the Historical Museum so that patrons can burn away their regrets, which is a big topic in the book, and they'll also be able to have s'mores. And yeah, a good combo, you know, burn your regrets, have some s'mores.
Food's always a draw.
Yeah, exactly. We will also be hosting a deaf cafe that is not on here, but Rebecca will be joining us for a deaf cafe. Deaf cafe is a very large part of this book, and we were already doing them as a quarterly program, so we thought perfect to bring it in for this. And we will also be partnering with Cocoa and Blue in the community to do a speed friending event. So each person is tasked with bringing their favorite book, and that's how you will meet new people, is you'll get to talk about your favorite book. And Cocoa and Blue is creating specialized drinks and cookies for us for this event, and they're also hosting it after hours for us, so they're not actually open. They are doing this special for us, and they're just as excited as we are, so. And then we have 8 book discussions total. I like the 4 special ones. We have our normal Beyond the Book, and for this one, the people who join will be doing watercolor flower bookmarks, like the cover of the book that you saw. Then there's also a build your own bouquet discussion, where they'll be discussing the books and then taking flowers that we get from Trader Joe's and other places to build a bouquet that fits their style. We will have 2 ESL and literary discussions, one in September and one in October, and also one at the Senior Center. Mickey is an Australian writer who is based in New York City. An evening with Mickey will happen on Thursday, October 24th in the Hendrickson Room. It will go from 7 to 9 p.m. And it will also be offered virtually again, as well as in person. And if necessary, we will use the Cardinal Room as overflow if the Hendrickson Room fills up. The event will be moderated by Rebecca James, and we'll have an author signing to follow as usual. And the book stall will be joining us as well to sell books like they normally do. Oh, sure.
Alrighty, good evening, everyone. So, this slide, I'm going to cover, Catalina Shen, our community engagement liaison, was not able to be here this evening. So I'll be touching on this and our communications and marketing efforts. So in regards to outreach and community engagement, a community partner that we partnered with this year, their name is Willow House, and their mission is to offer grief support to youth, parents, schools, and more. So a great tie-in with the book. We will have several pop-ups in the community, including the farmers market, Harmony Fest, and this will be the first time that the will be present presence at Oktoberfest across the street at the museum. And I think it's pretty cool. We are having a special book discussion just for Village of Austin Heights staff. It was a great way to engage the village staff and other community visits as well. In regards to communications and marketing, we will be using all of our promotional channels to promote OBOV. A few that I want to just pinpoint here this evening. The first one being the newsletter, and the September newsletter got shipped off today, so hopefully you will receive yours in the next couple of weeks. Since OBOV is a September-October initiative, there will be a feature in both of those months. Another channel that I want to talk about this evening is we will be using our robust email marketing channel to promote OBOV. And I'm really excited to share that we've kicked off OBOV promotion with a bang for a reveal party that is this Friday. I would say probably a week or so ago, there was about 17 customers that were registered, and with one email, we were able to increase it up to 75 people registered. And as of today, unless it changed, we have 117 people registered. So really great to see that promotional channel is so robust. And the third channel that I wanted to share this evening is, in the past, we have used retail marketing tactics to promote OBOV. There traditionally is a display that's on the main level that has the author events information, and it's designed with the look of the book, and the books are all on display there for customers to take. We're going to do that this year, but we're also going to take it to the next level. A little tidbit that I don't have a problem going on record and sharing with everybody, that sometimes I judge a book by its cover. And as you can see with these beautiful flowers, and seeing the book cover yourself, it inspired me to kind of think outside the box a little bit and pitch to my team that for the Dunton entrance, if we could kind of create this art display, if you will, it will be made out of vinyl or be printed on vinyl and be installed professionally to kind of give that like window shopping effect. When people pass by, you'll see the beautiful art, but then also the tagline for OBOV this year, which is Let Yourself Live. So though the book has a lot of depth in it, it's, as Neil mentioned, it is a positive book, and we want to have the August Nights community not only talk about a very, very important topic, but also the time is now to travel. The time is now to call that friend of yours that you've not talked to in a very long time. So let yourself live and do what makes you happy. So that should be installed within the next couple of weeks. And just to share with you a preview for the September newsletter. So this being the cover, and there are multiple pages devoted to OBOV. This is just one spread that highlights the programs. So like I said, that'll be in mailboxes in the next couple of weeks, as well as online.
So we are going to have a website this year, and in addition to information about the book, about the author, and how to get the book to attend a discussion, we will also have an affirmation calendar, and that's an example of it in the corner there. Each day will have a quote that is inspirational somehow for our customers to reflect on and get them motivated. Our Connect Through One Book, One Village is to encourage connections in the community. It will have information on a wind phone, which is a phone that will be placed in the library, and it's not connected to anything. And it will be encouraging people to talk to their loved ones, and the wind carries them to wherever they may be. We are also doing an ofrenda in October, and that will culminate on November 2nd with a celebration of Dia de los Muertos, which is the Day of the Dead, and we'll have a big celebration for that. And then it will also give an opportunity for our customers to put their advice, regrets, and confessions, which are a big part of the book. Why don't you read it? You want to? Next. The Explore More Resources was a huge creation of our librarians. They did extensive work. It's a very robust collection. And then we also have a program feed so people know what's happening. We have a new way of launching the book this year. We're doing a One Book, One Village kickoff party this Friday. And in addition to a look back at the last 11 books of One Book One Village, the community will be officially announced that Collections Across the Clover is our book. After we announce that, they'll be able to enjoy food from Fausto's, fudge from Kilwin's, and a bunch of activities that have to do with the book, like mahjong, a map of where you come from, where you want to go, where you've been, and it will be a very social experience for people. And yeah, that's the brunch party.
That's here.
Yeah, that is here in the Henderson room, yes. Do we have any questions? Yeah,
Just out of curiosity, the author event is going to be here instead of.
so unfortunately, Forest View wasn't available to us this time. They had a,
Board of Education.
yeah,
meeting that day.
yeah, and unfortunately, those dates cannot be changed. It's voted on by a board. So we did look at other places in the community. Metropolis unfortunately is also booked that day, and the more you go, the less you find places that can hold as many people. So we decided to bring it back here this year, and it will be offered virtually. There's 223 people can fit in the Henderson room, and then the Cardinal will be overflow as well.
Honestly, I think it's nice to have it back at the library, you know, Forest View is wonderful, and we'd love to fill that theater. The good thing is that Kevin, who was doing our live stream, has worked here before, pre-pandemic, so he's pretty familiar with things. And I think it'll just be really nice to have everything located in one place, and, yeah, nice to have it at home.
But I want to mention that there is a slight tie-in, because she goes to that cafe at the New York Public Library, so kind of bringing it back to the library, it was a good year to do that.
Greg, I think I saw your hand.
Yes, hello there. This is always one of my favorite times of the year, going over this. You guys always come up with these books that are just, just kind of, they get me. The death part of this reminds me, I don't know if you guys remember a few years ago, Every Note Played. And I gotta tell you, that for me was the most memorable book out of all of them. I could only read maybe a chapter at a time, and then I had to put it down. But it brought out a lot of emotions, and it taught a lot. So I'm really looking forward to getting into this book and reading it. So it sounds good. I like the idea. You're doing the different languages. For the presentation this Friday, you had me at fudge, so thank you for that.
I want to mention Kilwin's is actually donating all of the fudge. They're not charging us anything, so huge thank you to them. When I called Heather, she was, no, we'll do it for you, and they're gonna bring
Nice.
a bunch of their time, so thank you to them.
Oh, that's great. Couple questions. Do we ever look at anything? I know people like fiction. I mean, I like fiction. I read more fiction probably than anything else, but things like biographies or different things like that, do we ever kind of go down that type of path as we're looking for something?
So Greg, actually, what is the book of Charlie? The book of Charlie was more of a memoir biography, and that one really hit, pretty well. It was a quick read. I think that it just didn't deliver as much as we wanted in terms of hopefulness to the community. So Clover definitely has this uplifting angle. Charlie, you learn a lot, but it just kind of hangs out at the end. So that's why we didn't go with that one. I only exclusively read nonfiction, so to read fiction is difficult for me now.
Yeah. Okay.
The opposite, but yeah, I think that we consider biographies and memoirs, as long as they fit within that format. So we're really looking at something that is recent and then perhaps goes back maybe 2 to 3 years. Otherwise, we run out of the ability to get them in all the formats that we like.
Gotcha. And I don't know if this is the first year or the second year that we're not doing the voting or having the public do the voting. Is that just something that we've just kind of gotten away from, or did I always thought it kind of was a nice little, amp up to the whole thing.
So I believe the voting, That was pre-pandemic, if I remember
Totally.
correctly.
Was it that long
Probably
ago?
Back
Okay.
5 to 6 years, I want to say, and I remember some of the I remember exactly. Feather Thief was the one that won because it was the blue cover. Rebecca McKay's book, and I can't remember the other one.
The Great
Red
Believers.
covers, right, yeah, Great Believers, those were the red covers, and people really thought that the blue cover, the Feathers was the pretty one. So that's how we ended up with it. I think we would certainly be open to discussing, community voting again. We would just have to kind of go back and take a look at any,
How much, did we do that 2 years, 3 years,
I think we just did
or just once?
It was 2.
2 years.
2 years, yeah.
Okay, I didn't realize it was that
Certainly.
long ago. I always enjoyed it because it seemed like it got a little bit of a buzz kind of going, at the same time. But anyways, I'm looking forward to this. It looks like a really interesting book. So thank you all for your hard work. I know putting all these programs together, they are they're not easy. So good job. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I wanted to say that I love that you come up with some new things and keep some things every year. The bonfire, like, why didn't we think of that before? How fun. That's gonna be great. And just a kickoff party. I think that's a terrific idea. It looks like, even time with Cocoa and Blue, because I know we, do regular book discussions at Eddie's. So it's kind of nice to, and we use certain venues for our summer events. So
We looked at Cocoa and Blue specifically because we wanted to bring in a younger crowd.
yeah,
So Emily and I will be doing that one,
Yeah.
and so we thought maybe the younger
Right.
people might want to go to Cocoa and Blue versus Eddie's. So that's why we're partnering with them, and they're also great, so.
yeah, fun. And it, obviously this sort of lends itself, hopefully we'll get some terrific participation at the senior center. And I don't know if we're doing outreach or whatever to Luther Village or Moorings, that kind of thing. Is there any sort of tie-in with the schools or any, how sometimes we have a book that is related in topic or something for,
This year, there is
Young
not
people?
a tie-in for youth.
Okay.
It was discussed, but.
It's a tricky one.
Yeah, it's tricky,
Yeah.
and sometimes we didn't want to get too tangential, so there is no one that fits this year.
We'll have plenty of book lists, read-alikes, movie lists that kind of reflect, what's going on. But yeah, this one, in talking with Tracy and some of the other folks from youth services, kind of like, well, we've got books on grief and death, but we don't, that's not really the point of this book.
right,
Or we've got ones that maybe don't connect with that, are hopeful, but that's not really the point too. It's, balancing both. So we just kind of thought it would be best to
yeah,
just stick with it the way it is.
good. Well, it sounds like a lot of great stuff is coming. Anyone else?
I have a weird question.
Sure.
Since we were talking about youth and tie-ins and stuff. Like there are movies that are like PG-13s and Rs and or whatever, like where would this book land in that? I know it's your interpretation, but.
I think it's PG-13.
Yeah.
This is not enough in any way. But it is a heavy book, but it almost has a hallmarky kind of read to it and finish. So there's nothing that I think is going to be triggering. It's certainly a book that I think, my son's 12 to read it.
Right,
And
well, and I guess that was my thought was that like, there's a lot of people sort of in, my generation that I have kids that are old enough to understand, and we have grandparents that are maybe getting elderly, and so like, this is a topic of like, we don't live forever, and, like, you need to talk about these things before it happens. And so sometimes as a parent, it's great to have some sort of segue to be like, let's talk about this, right? Like, how do we share these things with our kids? And not that we should have, like, that's kind of like a personal in your own home kind of thing. I'm not sure how you would facilitate that as a program here. But that's why I just was asking personally. And then, there's parents out there that are listening to this and want to know, so.
For sure. No, I think that we've covered it a couple ways. I think that the book is accessible, if parents think it's appropriate. I think that, Western culture typically doesn't like to talk about death, so this book is great in terms of opening that conversation up. I work with Rebecca at Death Cafe, so those conversations range from grief to what do I do to all of this crap that I was left, to end of life planning, things, all of these things that I don't really think that we fully think about in the given the situation. We're also, Nikki, has a program coming up that is like a cultural look at death. And so a program like that, I think, is perfect for younger adults to take a look and kind of learn about the different cultural views on death, since the Western view is pretty.
And to call the professor that's doing that program actually grew up in Arlington Heights, and this was his home library as a kid. So when I reached out to the anthropology department at DePaul, my ex-professor immediately was like, this is the person that should do this, and he's so excited to come home and do this, and he loved the book, so he's really excited.
It's great.
Wonderful.
Oh,
Yeah, so.
Greg, I'm sorry, we have luggage tags, maybe for your next trip.
I picked it up Sunday and I'm halfway done with it, and it addresses what you're saying, Andy. They have like conversations with Clover as a child, so you can see that, like, if you want, how do I talk to her, they actually have like
Let's do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
She's a great.
Mike's got it.
It's so quirky, even though it's like that, it's like,
Thank
so
you.
innocent and like, it's really good.
Thank you so much. for-
Thank you. Yeah, you're gonna. Oh, this is good, I need this.
All right. Well, from a Death Cafe to medical insurance.
And where's
your
political cover?
Yeah. All right, thank you, ladies.
Yeah, okay, well, and I am here for a far less exciting reason. We're here to summarize kind of for you the findings of a project. I know you all are aware that we've been working on together since the beginning of this year, regarding the current state of our medical insurance, costs and, the current market state. So I think Lisa and I both agree we've learned a lot in, the time we've been working on this. So we had a good working knowledge before, that relates to our jobs, but just taking that deeper dive, I think it's very valuable, it's good practice. And we appreciate the opportunity to, talk to you tonight, to share what we learned, answer any questions you might have, and just, especially with budget time really coming up soon, open enrollment, things like that, just to talk about how this might impact next year, and obviously years beyond that as well. So, medical insurance costs, I think we've talked about before, they're the second largest expenditure to the library. And honestly, many other employers usually go salaries, then it goes benefits. It's not unusual that it's such a large percentage, right? So for the library, it's costs us $1.6 million in 2024, and that's 10% of our operating budget. And those costs are rising. They're rising faster than they have typically risen in recent years. That's true for all employers again, but we're looking at double-digit increases. And when we're keeping a tax levy flat at 0%, those things, do kind of compress on each other over time. So, it's kind of the situation we're in at, just the reality of the situation. So the goal of the project is really to determine if our current benefits, setup is optimal given those current market conditions, or if there are any opportunities to manage costs, or at least kind of maximize the return on our investment, since it is such a large investment in our staff. So the project had the potential to get very big. This is a meaty topic. We did have to kind of combat scope creep a little bit and kind of be thoughtful and intentional in the things we looked at. So we did review our current benefits that we offer. We reviewed the cost allocation methodology, the way those costs hit the library, and we evaluated a few different solutions, some of which are directly cost savings. We talked about the opt-out, we'll get into that. But other ones, like I said, there's sort of maybe indirect cost savings. That's all in scope, things that could, maximize our return on that investment. And we did focus our scope on things that we can control or influence. You know, we really just kind of set aside those things that are outside the scope of our control, like the market itself, like the personal needs of our staff. We can't control or influence certain things. So we focus our options on the things we might be able to, you know, sway or do. And then we finally have to weigh any options against staff satisfaction. And just think about internal considerations as far as administering any new solutions that we might recommend. So. Let's see, so sources of our project, so Hub International, they're very impressive, experienced benefits broker that helps develop a multi-year strategy to personalize benefits and manage costs while supporting employees. So and I would add also supporting employers. So they're really the industry expert. We work with them constantly. We have a seat at that table. When I say they know our demographic very well, they do, but that is both the library and the village combined, one demographic, since the village does administer our benefits on our behalf as part of an intergovernmental agreement that we have with them. So we do weight their opinion and their recommendations, you know, accordingly. But we did, you know, feel like as far as this project, we wanted to do our internal due diligence and really look at a variety of sources. So some of our other sources listed up here, the village finance team has is a wealth of information. We looked at our peer libraries. We looked at IFLAR statistics that represent a broader group of libraries to make sure that we're on par with where we should be. We have recent employee engagement survey results. We've had staff sessions on some of the options and just some of our internal personnel data as far as turnover, as far as open positions, things like that. So, the takeaway here is we tried to be thorough. You know, we weren't necessarily walking in as experts in everything. No one can be. Like I said, we had a good working knowledge, but for purposes of this, we did really try to be thorough in terms of our sources.
So to kind of just talk about our currency, where we're at right now is we have 4 health insurance plans. We have 2 PPOs, 1 high deductible PPO plan, and 1 HMO plan. And there are the 2-tier structure. So you can either have single level coverage or family level coverage. And the way that that's administered is the PPOs are self-funded plans, which means we need to have enough money in the bucket to pay claims that are coming in down the line. Whereas the HMO is not self-funded. That's basically a package product we purchase directly from Blue Cross Blue Shield. We pay them a monthly amount for each participant. We also, you know, have to take into consideration market conditions. So like Tracy just talked about, medical costs are expanding exponentially. Just the cost of services at your provider for the technology, pharmaceuticals rising exponentially. It just costs a lot, right? Insurance just costs a lot, medical care just costs a lot. And a part that has to be factored in is our demographic. So how heavily used is our insurance, you know, how the frequency, how many claims are getting submitted each month, and the severity. So do we have, you know, people just going for basic welfare, or do we have people with complex treatments that they're receiving? So that all sort of factors into part of what puts us where we're at.
So Lisa, just to reiterate, when you say PPO is self-funded, self being the village of Arlington Heights, including the library?
Yes.
I just want to make that clear, yeah.
Yeah, and then as far as the current state of the cost allocation methodology, the way those costs are currently hitting the library's books is it is allocated to the library based on staff actual selections, but at a moment in time during budget season. So we're coming up on that soon. It's before open enrollment. We can't wait for open enrollment selections to happen because that's beyond our budget timeline. So we take what they are during budget season and then apply actual premium dollars that, you know, actuaries that help calculate for us, and then are allocated our proportional share by the village. The village allocates to the library the exact same way as they allocate to any of their internal departments. They're very transparent and provided all their files. And really, at the end of the day, on average, the library is 17% of enrollees, but about 13% of total costs. So, you know, passes the sanity check and then some. Any differences to actual staff selections or actual headcounts, it doesn't generate income to either party. It sort of sits in reserve to earn interest and pay out future claims. So that's kind of how it's currently working, today. So when we found that the relationship with the village, definitely to be an asset, in terms of them administering our benefits for us, that comes with lower negotiated fees for administering some of the, self-funded stuff, we do engage with Blue Cross to administer those plans for us, even though we're funding them ourselves. So we have very low fees for that. We have very little internal administration currently in our current state. And honestly, we're getting a bargain in terms of our access to Hub. That's all just rolled into our intergovernmental agreement fee, and it is a tremendous value for what we pay currently.
Okay, so can I just, sorry, I'm not like an expert in this, but I think what I heard you say is we as the library are 17% of the enrollments in the village pool, and we pay in our budget 13% of the cost.
Yes.
So that I think is really important.
And that's blended, it depends on our selections versus village selections. Again, that they allocate everything the same way, but when you look at the total numbers, that is how it shakes out. So yeah, it's more than equitable. I'll also add that at any given time, the library would have maybe on average 1 to 2, I think is what we shook out with open full-time positions. Right now, we have none that were budgeted open. So it's also, we're not currently, we don't usually get allocated costs for positions that are sitting open, if that makes sense. Okay, so let's talk about what can we do. That was current state, like what are some of the options now? So one of the topics we obviously wanted to look at, a direct cost saving option would be to offer our staff an opt-out incentive where they would get a monetary incentive to waive medical coverage. So I want to start with this slide because this is kind of showing the demographic that we're talking about in terms of the library. This is not something the village will be offering. They're not entertaining this idea. So just looking at the library demographic at this time. So as of the time we prepared this slide, there were 223 library staff members. 136 of those are part-time. That means they're ineligible for medical insurance benefits. So 87 are full-time. Of those 87, 13 are already waiving coverage for free. And then 74 are enrolled in medical insurance currently. And, we took a look at those 74, that population. 38, we were confident those individuals will remain on the library's insurance, whether or not we offer an opt-out incentive, just by what we know about their personal circumstances and, if they have access to other insurance. And so that leaves us with down the bottom right, 36 that we're looking at who may elect to waive, who may be incentivized to waive under one of these plans.
Tracy?
Yes.
I'm sorry, and I must have missed something. Why, you can go back to that screen, please. Why would those 36, why would they may elect to waive out of this?
Because they likely have access to another form of insurance coverage, perhaps a spouse who has another insurance plan.
So this was, this presentation, I think, is in part because in our past couple years of budget, we've talked about, would it be wise for us to offer an opt-out option for staff that could get insurance either because they're under 26 on their parents or because their partner or spouse has insurance. And in order to, some companies offer that. And if we did that, we would also give an incentive, financial incentive to do it. So I think this slide and, what they're going to talk about is in response to those questions that we've had during budgeting.
No,
Does that make sense?
No, I get that. No, I get that. I get that part of it. I'm just trying to make sure that I'm understanding what's that incentive. And maybe I don't know this because you haven't gotten to it yet, why they would elect to waive out. Because you're saying 13 are already waiving. So they're already, they're already doing it. So I'm curious to why now what have we done exactly? Because I haven't seen it unless I didn't hear it correctly. Why is it now amped up that another 36 are out?
We haven't done anything at this time, so this was an option that the board had asked us to explore as potentially doing in the future to offer an opt-out incentive. We're not currently offering.
This is they kind of looked at, okay, if we decide to give staff X $1,000, if they opt out of our insurance, because it would be cost effective, how many people would even sort of fall into that category, meaning perhaps they're married or have a partner, or perhaps they're a full-time employee that could still be on their parents' insurance. So that's like the whole world of people that could waive out.
So, okay, so I get that. So is this the how we're talking about reducing the cost? I mean, I like what you said at the beginning there, Tracy. You know, we're doing all these zero levies, and you know, but this keeps going up. So at some point, we're going to have an issue here, and that makes perfect sense. But I'm kind of the cost savings that we're looking at is coming from these 36 people waiving out. Is that what we're getting to?
That's what we're getting to.
Next slide.
Thank you, Greg, for the lead in. So in order to assess whether this option is viable or something that we would recommend, we started to tackle that by first estimating what we think a break-even point might be. Because like you saw in the previous slide, there's already a number of individuals waiving coverage for free. So if we were to start paying individuals to waive, you have to start by paying the people who are already waiving and figure out how many more people do you have to waive in order to break even. And it's not a perfect science. I put on this slide intentionally that's an estimated break even point because we cannot predict which individuals will waive. They might be the folks on cheaper coverage right now. So let me explain how we kind of came up with an estimated break-even point when we're deciding whether or not this is something we think we should do. So first, we looked at two scenarios. We looked at a $4,500 incentive. And now the way we came up with $4,500 for the year is that is the weighted average cost to the employee for that group of 36 we're trying to target, trying to maybe entice to waive coverage to save us some money if that would work. So they pay on average $4,500 a year. They don't all pay $4,500 a year, but on average they pay that. So they of course would not pay that, but we said, okay, well, what if we paid an additional $4,500 to kind of entice them? They likely cannot take their $4,500 and go get comparable coverage elsewhere. Our benefits package is very robust. They know it is, they know it's a great value. Also, just changing insurance is inconvenient. It is a hassle. You have to do something to incentivize people to, to want to go through that process, right? So, you got to start by paying those who already waive. And that in scenario one of $4,500 equates to $58,500 a year that we would have to pay right out of the gate to the people who are currently waiving for free. So then when we compare, okay, if we're gonna get, additional people to drop off coverage, let's compare that to what is the library paid for these folks, right? And so we then calculated that at a $4,500 incentive, we would need 3 additional staff to waive coverage. So then the cost savings would really kick in with that 4th person to waive coverage. Again, you need to keep the other people who are waiving. They have to keep waiving, but you would need to find 4 more out of that 36 to continually waive coverage consistently for this to, we think, estimated, result in a net savings to the organization. We said, well, maybe $4,500 is too much. There's not a lot of preview, but there's not a lot of other libraries offering this, but the ones that are, maybe it's closer to a $3,000 incentive. You start in the hole less, now you're going to pay, those 13 people, $3,000 a year. So you got to dig yourself out of the hole less, but you're also less enticing to people. You might not get the level of participation you need.
How is it paid? Is it taxable? Is it an allowance? Is it a stipend?
We would have to go through, that would be like the next step of the project. So of the couple who do it, sometimes they put it directly in their paychecks. I don't know if it's pre-tax or not. I would have to do some research on that. Give them a stipend right up front. There's of the 3 or 4 who do this, they handle it differently, I would say. The 3 or 4 who do offer this, none of them offer it the same way.
Okay.
So that would be a next step if it was something that we probably should pursue.
Okay.
So again, the actual savings really, you know, do depend on which individuals we're waiving and the costs that we're currently paying for them, because there is no guarantee that the staff who are on the higher cost plans would be the ones to waive. So, you know, if it's staff, it only costs us like $7,000 a year, we're gonna need more than these 3 or 2 additional people, to waive. And so I mentioned earlier, we also need this to be waived consistently, annually. It's not something we can really turn on and off, in order to realize those savings, because we don't know long-term what those individuals would have incurred in claims. It's more or less impossible to, it's possible to turn on and off. It's not a good idea. I would recommend turning it on and off all the time as a benefit, but it's nearly impossible for us to quantify whether or not it resulted in savings, because we don't know. We don't know the future. We don't know what claims they would have incurred.
So one thing about this too, in the percentages, so thinking about the fact that we have 13 people who already waived, that's 15% of our staff. And the industry suggests that about 5 to 10% would choose choose to waive as part of an opt-out incentive. So if industry average is 5 to 10%, we've already got about 15% opting out on their own. You know, that's a little bit of a gamble from my perspective. Tracy mentioned that not many other libraries are doing this. We reached out to 20 of our peer libraries, and of those 20, only 4 offer an opt-out incentive. So it's not incredibly popular. One of the things we also thought about is the internal administration of it. It's a very labor-intensive process to have to administer an opt-out program. So there would be, you know, we mentioned that we get to utilize the village as our benefits administrator. They looked into this for this year as well. They very quickly decided it's a route they're not going. So they would not be able to support us in doing this. And so if we choose to admit, we have to find someone on the finance and HR team, and our teams are really at capacity. So we would have to be talking about bringing in some additional help to help support additional benefits administration. We mentioned at the top of this, Hub is our expert. We really do rely on them for understanding the nuances of the medical industry that we don't, right? We have the employer working knowledge, but not the industry knowledge. And quite honestly, they don't recommend it for us. This is something that kind of used to be popular and has really gone by the wayside. It's not being done hardly at all anymore. And an unfortunate truth of these sort of opt-out programs is the healthy individuals are the ones who opt out. So in the end, as a self-insured, we actually end up incurring more costs because it's just the sick people who are still on our plan, and then we've lost the balance of the healthy people who are kind of helping, you know, fill that void and make it not so expensive. As Tracy mentioned, we've got great benefits. It is highly unlikely that someone's spouse or partner is going to have benefits more favorable than ours at a cost that is better than ours. So again, I don't really think a lot of people will opt out for those exact reasons, plus the hassle. And it can be difficult to administer. That was, you know, because you have to ask for attestations, you have to do it annually. It's a very cumbersome process to do the opt-out. That being said, we do acknowledge other companies, this may work, an opt-out option may work really well for them. Their benefits plans are likely set up very differently than ours. Their benefits offerings are probably very different from ours. And so it is something I think you have to look at on an individual basis, right? Like, what is right for us? And I'm not confident that this would be the best option for us. And I think the thing that was really great for us is doing this research and looking at it. And I do think it's something that it was time well spent, right? We should be proactive in looking at our benefits on a regular basis and digging into this and seeing how Hub's recommendations really aligned nicely with our internal data as well, and the research we were doing internally and what we found from there. So one of the things that Hub had proposed to us, so both us and the village, and we really like, and we do think it's very related, is a tiered benefit structure. So as you recall, I mentioned that currently we only have 2 tiers. We have employee only and family. So when you select your insurance plan, you can select employee only, you can select family. we are going to change that to be a 4-tier system. And so we'll have employee only coverage, employee plus spouse, and employee plus children and family. And the cost of premiums will be distributed accordingly. Right now, you may have just you and a child on your plan, or just you and a spouse on your plan, and you are paying for family level coverage. Whereas you might have a family of 6, you know, paying the exact same as a unit of 2. So, that's gonna help balance some of that out. Obviously, the employee has a lower premium with us, we have a lower cost incurred as well. So as we start separating that out, which we're working on literally right now, so it'll be part of the budget allocations for 2025. So we're really interested to see how that actually flushes out, just where we are at our current state. And then kind of go from there. You know, and I do wonder, so family, employee only coverage, the cost will be going down, or well, the regular amount of up, and family coverage will increase a decent amount. So the family level coverage is gonna see a greater increase than historically. I don't know how some people are gonna take that. We do have employees whose spouses have really robust plans, where ours may have been the better plan before. But once we get the new rates put in for 2025, that might be the better rate, it might be a better option. So we don't know what kind of just natural shuffling is gonna happen as a result of just, you know, changing the tier structure. So we're really kind of tuning in to see how that will flush out over the next 6 months or so.
When is your open enrollment?
October.
So I think you said there are 78 employees that you guys have or that are eligible. So how does it currently pan out between the current 2 tiers, and how do you foresee it shaking out?
Yeah,
with the
that's
third tiers?
So right now, I have it right now. Right now, about 50% have the PPO plan and about 35% have the HMO plan, and about 50% of our enrollees are on the family.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
But 50% are on the family plan, but right now, as it stands today, we don't know which of those are employee only versus employee plus child versus a whole family.
Okay.
So we're literally doing the math right now. And
Yeah, we got that information like last week sent to us, you know, that, because only the benefits provider had like the dependent information, we only knew if they were at.
Okay.
Yeah, so it'll be, within the next week or 2, we'll know how do we exactly break out into each of these 4 tiers.
Yeah, and like Lisa said, to be clear, everyone's insurance is going up. It's just that we're gonna reallocate it.
Down the less, I like how you said it, down the.
The regular amount.
Regular amount.
Down the regular amount of up.
Yeah.
This may be a silly question, but okay, so I'm the employee and I have 1 child, whereas another person has an employee plus 3 kids. Is that also a tier? No.
They'll be employed, so 1 adult and any amount of children goes in there.
That's what.
Statistically speaking, you know, when the actuaries look at it, kids don't cost that much. So that's why the children are all lumped together. And once you have 2 adults on the plan and another dependent, it becomes a family.
Got it.
And all of Arlington Heights is, you know, and does that include police and fire?
Yes.
Yeah.
Does that include the park district?
No.
Oh.
Police, fire, public works, us, and then the village business folks.
Would it be good to also include the park district?
Yeah, why would
Well, they're
that?
a different taxing board.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Okay, so what else can we do, right? We talked about opt-out incentive, we talked about, which is direct cost savings, we talked about this, you know, tiered structure, which is, you know, potentially cost savings, a little less direct, so when we see organically what happens. So what else can we do? So we also looked in scope of this project, let's look at our allocation methodology, we talked what it is today. Well, what else could we do? So as a reminder, you know, Village is very transparent, they're very consistent with how they allocate to us versus their own departments. We mentioned that we're 17% of the enrollees, but 13% of the cost. And we don't have full positions often sitting open that we're getting allocated to, right? So if we were, however, to kind of challenge that methodology and allocate more real time, like what are our actual headcounts today? Every month, maybe we, you know, work with the village to get a cost allocation. These are our actual full-time headcounts. This is people's actual selections that they vacate jobs or have a life status has changed that allows them to change their elections, mid-year, what it does not change is the total amount needed to fund future claims. So you can kind of think of it as a total pie, and, yes, our piece of the pie could change each month if we're looking at actuals. The problem is not a guaranteed cost savings to us, because the opposite is true. Yes, we might have 2 full-time positions open at some point. We might find ourselves in that situation, and we're like, well, we're getting charged, for medical insurance for these 2 positions, but no one's sitting in them. So maybe we should allocate it every single month, but the opposite is true, the village has open positions, full-time positions. Again, the total that we need to fund future claims doesn't change, so if we were to allocate based on actuals, it could be so that the village has open and then the library gets a bigger piece, you know what I mean? It's unpredictable in that way, it's not a guaranteed benefit to the library, we have the way we slice and dice that pie. And also whether favorable or unfavorable, currently there are no variances. My team spends 0 amount of time on a monthly basis. We book to budget. We know at budget time what we will get allocated for medical insurance the next year on a department by department basis. That amount is exact on a month. We don't have to look at anything. Well, every month we would have to start analyzing those variances. There would be guaranteed variances every single month. They're probably correct. They're probably supportable, but you would get wild swings, on a month-to-month basis, that would have to be validated, truthfully. So, truthfully, we're just all one demographic. I think that's how we view benefits administration in general. Like I said, we have a seat at the table. It's true on the cost allocation side. It's also true on the paying out claims side. When we incur claims, we're not looking, is this the village person, is this the library person? It's truly one demographic. And, when our staff incurs claims, it's the same as if a village person's incurring claims. So, it's not something I would recommend, changing the cost allocation methodology. I think we are past that sanity check. We're paying actually less than our proportional share when you're looking at it in total. We don't have a lot of open benefits eligible positions sitting open at any given time. So, I truly think we're getting pretty close with the allocation method as it is.
And if cost savings is really what we're looking for, the easiest and most impactful way is to change the benefits they're offering. You offer lesser benefits, less robust benefits, it costs less money. There's generally an inverse relationship with employee satisfaction when it comes to doing that, but that's the way you do it. You offer a plan that does not have as much coverage, or that costs a different amount. So that's an option we have too.
Is that actually an option? I thought it kind of went through the village and what they picked.
So if we are our own entity and we don't have to utilize their benefits, we can choose something different. But then we have to reset the intergovernmental agreement, because if they're still going to be our benefits administrator, or we have to end up doing it on our own. So we have the ability to do whatever we want to do when it comes to benefits, but that economy of scale comes into play by the partner. Sure. Yeah, question. So back to Tracy's point from the beginning, is we also want to look at what are just some things that are better ROI, right? And so we're looking into offering benefits for part-time staff. We're getting close to the end of that assessment, not quite sure where it's going to go yet, but we're working on that still. But again, a huge morale, satisfaction, continued employment, retention. We are going to be transitioning our flex spending administrator for 2025. We're going to find that will be more impactful to the finance and HR teams to find efficiencies there in terms of how that will all work. Talk to you offline about that if you really care. All right. So for me, the biggest thing is our employees have told us they're happy with our benefits, the benefits that we offer. Yes, insurance is too expensive. Everybody thinks insurance is too expensive, but overall, what we've got is good. And so I really believe that our focus needs to be focusing on employee well-being and helping that lean towards the long-term savings. So the transitioning to the 4-tiered benefit structure, making sure we continue to educate staff about their insurance and understanding, are they, paying too much? Like, are they not using the plan they have? Is the plan, are they ending up having to pay too much out of pocket because the plan they're in is not well suited for them? Encouraging employees to participate in wellness initiatives, looking at various benefit options, not just the insurance for part-time staff, but what are other options we have overall, and really keeping that staff first perspective. That's,
Yeah, I think that's it. Ding, ding,
that's the
yeah.
end. So, and it's a lot of information, it's a lot of detail.
Like I said, we could have spun for the next year on any of these options, you know, and there's additional options too, when we were talking with Hub about specifically the opt-out, you know, and the reasons that Lisa went over, they did provide us with a list of like, here are some other things that you could do, like not saying they're good for you as an employer, like Lisa said, it's really an employer like employer situation based on our demographic and lots of other circumstances, but they're like, here's a list of other things you might want to explore since we don't recommend an opt-out. We could go down any of those, you know, like it could be, each one could be a year-long project in and of itself. None of them struck us as something we wanted to like add to the scope of this current project. We felt good about where we're at. We think the small incremental changes are good and important ones and more measurable, can see how those go before flipping the switch on something more drastic that we don't feel confident will be a long-term solution for us, but we felt now with it, like I said, budget and open enrollment coming up, it was a good time to pause, update all of you, you know, answer whatever questions that we could have, that you might have at this time.
Greg.
Hello there. Okay. Thank you for all that. And I know we've been asking you questions about, you know, exactly what it is that you're talking about, especially the opt-out plan. And as I thought about it, as you went through it, and I can't remember which one of you, said, I think it was Tracy that said it, that well, for me, that's just a dollar. That's just a dollars. You know, what saves you more dollars? And Tracy, when you started talking about, or no, excuse me, I think it was Lisa. I don't know. I'm sorry. It's kind of hard to see on the screen, and when you're on this, your voices both kind of sound similar. So I'm sorry. You know, the amount of work that it's going to take, the labor intensive this to be able to do that, just seems to be, there's a lot of money there. You know, you talk about the $4,500 and the $3,000. You know, I'm like, the only thing I kept thinking to myself was, well, wait a second, how much are we paying per person right now? You know, and how does that work? And how does that work in? And don't worry about giving me the number right now because I don't think that's important, at least in my mind, for right now. So that whole thing just seems like. Okay, go. Great.
On average, it's close to $30,000 a year.
Per
Okay.
person
Per person.
that we pay.
Yes, that the employer share. However, it could be as low as 7,000 a person, but it could be up to 32,000. That's a weighted average. So that's what I was trying to get at with, if it's the 7,000, the people who cost us 7,000 who start waiving, we need more and more people to waive. But if it's the $32,000 people who waive, okay, maybe we could hit that, but you just don't know.
Well, and I'm assuming that 7,000 would be HMO.
Right,
Yeah.
and a single HMO.
A single HMO person, that's not, okay, sorry, Greg, go ahead.
No, so what you both said at the end of this, though, yes, we want to save money and whenever we can, and be frugal with our money, or fiscally responsible. I think that's a better term for what we want to do. But we don't want to do it obviously on the backs of the staff and saying, hey, you know, we're going to give you less because we're trying to save money. I remember in the years past, some school districts, because they were financially strapped and they had to make certain reasons and certain things, they would go ahead and do things like this. They'd have them pay more of their own share of the insurance, or they would change the plan and they would do different things like that. Because we've been such a good library for so many years at being fiscally responsible, we're not in that situation, and that's real testament to everything that we've done at this library over the years and what you're currently doing right now. But I think we just have to be careful about this. The plan that you've got there at the end, going to the tiers, that makes total sense to me. Doing all that, I think it's the right way to go about it. Again, you did a lot of work on the opt-out plan, but I didn't see anything there unless you showed me a spreadsheet and said, if we did this, we would save this, you know, type of thing. That's just a numbers game right now. And my gut, though, tells me it's not there. That in the end, it wouldn't be there. And I don't know if it would give the staff the satisfaction that really need. Because once we start going down that road, their staff is the most important to achieving our missions. If we start going down that road, we start messing up a whole lot of other things. So thank you for that. A lot of good work there. I'm curious to see how this goes in the future with some of the recommendations, the things that you said at the end there. So thank you.
Thank you.
I was just gonna say, I appreciate this so much. I think it was a really good learning exercise for all of us. And I also think that, I mean, I know we asked you to do it, but we realized that our staff is our largest cost. Insurance is the largest, cost of our staff. So this is something as we move forward, we're gonna have to keep thinking about. So this was a really good way for us to do that. And I'm disappointed, just timing wise. Unfortunately, Sarah's sick as our treasurer, and Carol, because I know her library does offer this, and she's mentioned that several times, but it sounds like perhaps some of the offerings of their insurance are not the same, and perhaps her population isn't, there's a lot of different things in the way that her library, is able to offer this. So this was super helpful. And I'm also wondering if you can send this to all of us, because especially, I'm sure that they'll watch the meeting, but it is helpful just to have the presentation that you did.
Yeah, we're happy.
So, anyone else?
Yeah, I was on the same page
Yeah.
as you about Carol, because I know she was, so I really appreciate all the time that you took on. It seems like you went really in depth. I'm curious about the 4 other libraries. What was their, anecdotally, what was their whole take on having to administer it?
I would have to look back at our notes. I think it's a much simpler, those are probably not village libraries, they're probably just standalone, like
Okay.
small staff, different, with no clue what their benefits, their overall benefits offerings are, besides that they do participate in an opt-out. All I remember is they were around 2,500 to 3,000. One was maybe 4,000. But I would have to look back, and I think they, were satisfied with the plan that they had in place for their library, but like Lisa said, this might make perfect sense for Gilboa, this might make perfect sense for a lot of other employers, based on their plan and their demographics. So we really were just focused on our demographic.
Well, it does sound very labor intensive on staff, and just like way too many variables, like annually, year to year. It just seems like it would just be really.
Like, for example, some employer might have a structure in place that caps it, it's not possible for them to pay out claims more than a certain amount. That's not our case. I mean, way up, we do have some reinsurance in place that would protect us if it was getting out of control, but we couldn't meaningfully assume, hey, we're gonna pay the max, and then would we still save money? There's really no way for the way our benefits are structured to quantify it. We just don't know. But other libraries might be able to, other businesses might be able to, calculate something like that.
I'm just trying to figure out, so if the low end of our opt-outs are like the 7,000. And the highest we talked about was it 4,500?
32,000.
No, not that part, but like if we were to pay them to not be in, to opt out.
Yeah, one scenario was 4,500.
Okay, so let's assume 7,000, they're the lowest, denominator, and we're gonna pay them the most to not be in it.
Mhm.
That gives us $2,500 of savings for one person. Right? Not dealing with administrative costs right now, just in theory, that one person.
In theory, yeah.
Right, and that's the lowest thing. If you multiply that by 13 people, that's 32,500. There's not a lot of savings here. I'm not trying to argue that. I'm just trying to just the way my brain works, I have to look at everything separate. And then we had an additional, I'm not seeing the slide right now. So how many additional possibilities? 36. Okay. I'm just trying to figure out, yeah, obviously, and I don't know what an administrative, you're talking about another full-time employee or part-time employee, I don't know what that would be. But and I hear you guys that this seems laborious and the benefits may not outweigh you know, the cost may not outweigh the benefit, I'm saying that right? But I just wanna make sure that we're really looking at what those numbers are, because, you know, if we look at the lowest possible margin, is that worth, you know, we know we have 13 people opting out. Obviously, that's money we have to pay in because they're doing it without any kind of incentive. So when you had 3 and 2, I wasn't really sure if that meant. What does that mean?
That's an average amount, so we
Yeah.
took everybody and we had to, you know, because we didn't, I mean, we've got a whole spreadsheet with.
I know,
Average,
sure,
I-
Yeah.
When you average our insurance population,
Yeah.
that's how we came up with the 2 to 3, but keeping in mind, we don't know where those people, so like, if it is the HMO enrollees, we need more.
So those things.
Right, like you know, when I do my projections, I always look at the worst possible scenario.
Yeah.
And then like, obviously, you know, you plan for the worst and hope for the best, right?
We attacked it more with a weighted average.
Yeah, that makes
scenario.
sense, yeah.
And those little
This
incremental,
is why
whatever
you
you're,
guys look at numbers.
I wasn't following exactly, but I understand, like, say it was $2,000 savings. Those have to slowly eat into what we're starting in the red by paying the people who currently opt out for free. So all that math was done, you know, I share it with you. But yeah, we did, instead of taking a best case scenario, worst case scenario, and like averaging it that way, we kind of started with like the weighted average costs. You know, I get to a close answer either way, I would say.
And if I understand correctly, in simplest terms, this hub that you're talking about, these industry experts, their recommendation is that it just isn't good for this demographic, right?
Very,
For us.
very swiftly, they recommended against.
Okay. And to me, yeah, that's important.
Yeah, it is important because we do, like we said, put a lot of weight in their expertise.
Yeah.
Because I think we do that in a lot of places in the library, you know, we hire consultants for many different projects and we weight their recommendations accordingly. And this is no different.
And I think it may be different in that, you know, and I wish Carol was here because I'd really love to have her, you know, expertise and experience with this. But, you know, depending on how they're structured, you know, we're with the village. So my understanding is that we have a much more robust, you know, thorough benefits package when it comes to healthcare that maybe some other libraries can't attain or have access to. And so that really puts a spin on it, in that, you know, it is a big difference rather than something that maybe. You know, if there's still fruit, but it's apples and oranges, and so
That's
not really
what it is. It
comparing
might not,
the same
you know,
thing.
their benefits, you know, very good as well. We'll have a little bit of information on, they're just so different. And our demographics of staff could be very different, you know, library staff in your standalone library might be a younger demographic, they might be more willing, this is also coming from this kind of, you know, conversation that we have. They might be younger in general, when you're talking about a standalone library, maybe more willing to take the money and, you know, figure out something else. We just know our demographic and Hub knows our demographic very well, they're more seasoned, they're more tenured. You know, they're just probably a little older than other libraries. Yeah, apples and oranges, just like you said, it might be a great solution for.
Yeah, I just like what Greg said, like, I just want to make sure we're being fiscally responsible and really looking at it. Like, obviously always taking the recommendation of staff and, you know, I do really appreciate you doing all the legwork on this, because it's not fun. This is why you do it, and I don't have to. But, yeah, I just wanted to try to understand a little bit more. Yeah, thank
Well,
you.
and I think, so we will be able to see specifically going to how our insurance changes. I think that'll be really helpful information as we plan for the future.
So what we'll see right away for budgeting.
Yeah.
Is how much, we're like, which piece, how much of the pie we're getting, right? So we'll see that straight away. We won't know until after open enrollment,
Right.
where
Right,
people.
okay. But I just mean for next year's budgeting.
Yeah, we'll be able to see who
Yeah.
drops off our insurance just naturally, you know.
Right.
If after the tiering, you know, maybe it's related to the tiering, maybe it's unrelated and just coincidental, we won't necessarily know, but it'll give us some sort of helpful information. And in neither situation can you predict what people's spends would have been.
Right. And do you have, I asked Mike this earlier, you're meeting with the village tomorrow to get our real insurance?
Yeah,
Uh,
meeting was canceled,
oh, okay.
however, we understand there's a different way to get the
Oh, okay,
information. So we
Information.
will be working on doing it, yes. this week.
for the.
Yes, for the
budget.
net, for the first draft.
Got it. Okay,
So remind me again, open enrollment is when?
October.
So this goes into effect in October.
It'll be in effect for Jan 1.
Right, oh, right,
Which one?
but in October, they will have that, so we will see what that is at that point, knowing what we're going into for January, for budgeting purposes. Okay.
thank you.
Thank
That
you.
was really a lot of great information. All right, where are we?
Holidays.
Holidays, all right, approval of the 2025 library holiday dates and closing schedule.
Okay, so around this time every year, we approve the holiday and closing schedule for the following year. This year we have pretty consistent with previous years. I don't know if you guys have any questions on anything. The one date that does change every year is our staff development day. This for 2025, we're planning for April 4th. So the library will be closed that day.
So it says not a paid holiday, but staff still gets paid for attending.
Correct. So it's not a holiday where they can stay home and get paid.
It's a working
Just makes sense. Okay, very good.
I do have a weird question, and I know we've probably gone over it a million times, but okay, it's staff development day. I'm getting paid to be there, but I normally don't work on that day, and therefore I'm going over my 40 hours or whatever. How does, now I'm getting paid overtime for staff development day, or like, how does that work?
So, if you're full-time, and you're getting overtime pay, if you're full-time, you're already gonna be working on a Friday anyway, generally.
Sure.
Part-time staff, there's a variety of approaches. Sometimes we shift hours around and they, work different hours throughout the week, get a different day off earlier so that they can work on Friday. And sometimes we do go over hours.
It's once a year. I mean,
Yeah,
it's not that big a
exactly.
deal. I'm just curious, so. Okay.
I would like to make a motion that the Board of Library Trustees approves the 2025 library holiday dates and closing schedule.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. All right, other.
The only thing I have in other is the 2024 Illinois Library Association Conference is coming up in October. If any of you would like to attend, you'll have to log on to your ILA account and register yourselves. But if you need any help with hotel or getting registered, please feel free to call myself or Janet or Teresa, and we'll help you out.
All right, thank you. I have a question. Can you update us, if there's an update, on the filters that we had approved a few months ago? Have those gone into effect? Has there been any?
They've not gone into effect yet. The hardware is here and set up. We just actually met the other day discussing the details and the process and procedures that will go into place, and talking points to communicate out to the staff and to the public about that when it goes into effect. We're looking at September 16th right now as kind of our go live date for the filters for the public. So that will include a testing period, communication period, and I think that probably covers it, right?
Is there, has there been any, I don't know, have you received any complaints or any customer complaints about people viewing things recently, or?
I don't know.
Not at all, not that I'm aware of. Okay. And the other thing I wanted to ask about, the additional contingency for the cooling tower.
Yes.
How is that going?
It's going well. They're moving forward with it. We brought it back to the village for review with the additional structure that we'll be building. They did have a couple of changes, just reducing the height of it if possible. So we went back to the engineers and reduced the height. I think it was around 4 feet tall total. That is the beam that will be above the roof deck. They're reducing it down to about 3 feet tall. And they requested us paint it the same color as the structure behind it. So it kind of blends that. But other than that, things are moving ahead. Yeah, it's going well. No surprises yet, if that's what you're wondering.
Excellent. All right.
While we're talking about cooling towers and such. I know that we had a constituent request, sound around the Maker Place, because their home was kind of near it, and there was noise from, I don't know if it was the AC or, it was something from the roof, and I know that they were working with, working with us on that. I don't know, did that get resolved? I didn't.
Yeah, it was resolved. Gary, our soldiers manager, has
Yeah,
been working
Gary,
with that neighbor
thank
for
you.
quite some time, on a couple different things. And, I think what they ended up doing was changing the schedule of the unit, so it's not running overnight. That was the biggest issue. And so, we've been keeping in contact with them, and they're happy.
Okay,
With
cool.
it. So, yeah, that's been.
Yeah, I just remember, I like, dropped the ball on that, I never followed up, but I hadn't heard anything else, so I thought, well, it's probably resolved.
Yeah, no, Gary's been at that.
I know Gary was working on it, so I assumed, okay, great. Very good.
Yes, Jess?
Again, since we're talking about all of this, any update on like construction now that summer is over and like
Sure.
schools are?
Yeah, so we are out to bid right now on the construction project that we have planned for this fall. That is the restrooms, the core entrance, the elevator floors, and some hallways and stuff like that, all by the restroom upstairs. That is coming back. I think that ends fairly soon, and we're gonna be bringing that bid package to the next committee of the whole meeting. That will be making that a special board meeting so we can move forward with that. So we'll be looking for approval to move ahead with the recommended contractors from the bid process. So,
Nice.
Meaning that we need a quorum to vote at that meeting.
Right.
So that is the meeting
I think it's
September
September 9th.
9th.
Yeah.
I know
Gonna be rough.
Yeah,
I'm gone.
Andy's out of town, I'm out of town, Sarah's gonna run the meeting.
Okay.
But, Greg, do you happen to know your travel schedule that far out?
For what date was that? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
September 9th?
I will not be around September 9th.
So.
Yeah. But when we were trying to figure it out,
I don't know,
Carol said she was gonna be there, so as long as we have Sarah,
and
Stacy,
yeah,
and.
there's four,
Jen.
assuming everyone,
Is on board.
But that's what, yeah.
Yeah.
So nobody gets sick.
I have a conference.
Yeah.
I'm out of town.
Yeah. All right,
All right,
well,
well,
that's what we know, so thank you. All right, I will entertain a motion for an adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Wait, did you say
Aye.
that?
Thank you.
Aye.
Safe travels.
I said not yet. Wait, what?
Good morning, everybody. Good night.